Trevor Lunn, Alliance MLA for Lagan Valley and Alliance Education spokesperson.
So Trevor, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing education in Northern Ireland at the moment?
I think it would be hard to select the biggest challenge. There are several. The entire administration of education, following the failure of the ESA to be established, is one. The whole debate over transfer tests, but I don't believe that's the biggest one, but it's still very significant. But I suppose if I had to choose one, it would be the budget and how we run the education system on the allocated budget that we have at the moment.
And do you think that addressing those problems is sort of interlinked? Do you think that's separate problems to address, or do you think actually see one kind of overarching solution?
Obviously, the establishment of ESA, or the non-establishment of ESA, interlinks with the budget, because the idea of ESA was to rationalise and save money, but they all link into the shared future agenda and the debate about integrated education and how far we can rationalise the school estate. So it's an interlinked problem, yes, of course it is.
What is the best way to manage the financial situation as regards education?
Well, you've got the short term and the long term. I mean, ideally our long-term solution, we believe, would free up an awful lot of money within the system. I don't believe we'd need more money if the education system was properly organised. But that would involve a level of cross-sectoral cooperation which doesn't exist at the moment. So for now we have to try and work within the budget that we have, and that's a question of cutting the cake appropriately. It's not easy.
How big a contribution, aside from the economic question, how big a contribution do you think sharing and integration can make to a more cohesive and peaceful society in Northern Ireland?
I think it's absolutely basic. The problem of keeping our children apart through their education, right through the university, still exists. I mean, we have successes. We have the establishment, I think it's 22,000 pupils now in integrated education, and a measure of sharing in other schools, but it's still the case that 90% are educated separately. It goes the root of our problems. I'm delighted to hear other people, including some from unlikely sources, coming up with the same ideas and the same opinions. I welcomed Peter Robinson's comments, and I continue to do so.
What do you think of the argument that public funding shouldn't be going to schools that seem to endorse or represent one ethos, that the public money should be dependent on them being actively welcoming to pupils of all faiths and none?
I don't buy that argument at all. As far as I'm concerned, a good school should be publicly funded. If it's a school with a particular religious ethos, as long as it's not exclusive to children of other faiths or none, I really see no problem with. I don't see any reason to make a differentiation.
As we approach the Assembly elections, how important is it to your party that a majority of people here, according to numerous surveys, would like to see more integrated schools available? I
have seen various surveys and polls over the years I've been up here. They all indicate to me that there's a tide of change. It may be slow coming, but public opinion is in favour of integrated education, and that doesn't have to mean the current model of integrated schools. It can mean the integration of schools, the gradual amalgamation of schools, the sharing of facilities. But it's something that needs to be worked at. I think it's popular with the public, and there's a realisation dawning that is perhaps the only way forward in the long term.
Just finally, can I take you back to your own school days? What's your strongest, most abiding memory from that time?
Well, I know that school days are supposed to be the happiest days of your life. I do wonder sometimes, because I hear different stories. Certainly my school days were not particularly the happiest days of my life, and I was more than glad to leave school and go into gainful employment. So I'd have to say perhaps the happiest days of my school days were the first day of the holidays.
But is there any particular incident that stands out in your memory from when you were very small or anything? No. My school days are well over 40 years ago now. I certainly enjoyed primary school. Didn't seem to enjoy secondary, which was a grammar school, so much.
but I couldn't particularly put a reason on that, and maybe a different approach, different ethos. But I was happy enough to leave school. I didn't go to university. I went into insurance business, and I've never regretted that.
Thank you very much.